But this time we're going to do a live on YouTube. It's been a while since we have done a live on YouTube, and I should be doing more on YouTube. We have a fair following there, and I enjoy the freedom and the decency of YouTube to allow people to do what they want to do, meaning creators. Too often on TikTok, you've got people worried about saying a certain word or doing a certain thing and having TikTok losing their shit over it. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating to work on TikTok sometime. That's why I always suggest to people that if something happens to TikTok and it goes by the wayside, that you need to just come to YouTube or Substack or Blue Sky or something like that. But YouTube is the one place you can go where you can get all the same short videos and also get the podcast, the video version of the Rational Boomer podcast. So hopefully you will check that out, and hopefully we'll get some people coming by here on YouTube. We've had a lot of good luck on Substack. We've had a lot of good luck on TikTok as far as people coming in. Now we're going to give YouTube a try, see what the hell happens. I did no promotion for this at a time. I just pulled this out of my ass and I said, look, we're going to give this a try. I've been watching the news a little bit today, and it's been almost laughable because Donald Trump is really full of himself, but he has absolutely no reason to be full of himself. He thinks he's doing a great job. He thinks he's running the country and also running the world. Yeah, no, Donnie, you're not running the world at all. Your polling is way the fuck down, and that's got him all fired up. Everybody is doing exactly the opposite of what you suggest. So you're doing the opposite of running the world. Kim Anklin says, good evening and good luck. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. I guess I need a little luck every time I step out on the live, especially when I do it on my own. You know, TikTok, I have moderators. A lot of times I have moderators here too. But I didn't give anybody a heads up for it because I just thought at the last minute that I'm going to do it today, and we'll see what happens. I got some good news for you, though. We've been waiting to hear what was going to happen in the election up in Canada. We know that the Liberal Party, headed by Mark Carney, was looking to be in pretty good position to win. But the Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, that mini Trump, that goofball motherfucker, he was running close for a time with the Liberal Party. But I have to say, if there is anybody that should get credit for the Liberals winning in Canada, it's got to be Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done everything he can to alienate Canada from America, our closest friend, our closest ally, the country that we count on the most, the one that we trade with the most. But Donald Trump has done everything to alienate them. Donald Trump said today in a Truth Social that good luck to the good people of Canada. Vote for the right man, the strong man. And he's talking about Pierre Poilievre because he's another MAGA fuck. And then he went off and started talking about the 51st state and the tariffs and all these sorts of things. Donald Trump really thinks he's doing something when he does that, but he's not. Well, he is doing something, but he's doing the opposite of what he thinks he's trying to do. You know, he's trying to encourage, he thinks everybody in Canada loves him, just like he thinks everybody in America loves him. And I firmly believe that the people of Canada voted for the Liberal Party and Mark Carney because they were the best choice. But I think even some of the people in the middle, the independents that weren't sure, they didn't have to think twice once Donald Trump started opening his mouth about Canada and a 51st state and all of that bullshit. As soon as that happened, they said, oh, no, we don't need more of that here. It's entertaining watching America go through the bullshit that they are going through, but we don't need that bullshit here. We just don't need it. So they voted for the Liberal Party, and the Liberal Party, and Mark Carney will be the leader of that Liberal Party, and he will be the premier or the president or whatever they call him, and he will be running the country. Now, the interesting thing about Mark Carney is that he seems pretty strong, too. He doesn't hesitate to push back on Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not going to like this. Donald Trump doesn't like when anybody pushes back. But this perceived power that Donald Trump thinks he has, well, it's starting to lose some ground now. Donald Trump has always been big on the economy. Oh, I had the greatest economy in the world. Well, right now, he has one of the worst economies in the world because of his actions with tariffs and the rest of his stupid shit. He was always big on the stock market, too. Oh, I had the greatest stock market ever. Well, now he's got one of the lowest stock markets that we've seen in 4 or 5 years. When he left office in 2021, the Dow Jones was at 30,000 points. Right after Joe Biden ended up, and in February after Joe Biden left office, the Dow Jones was at 45,000 points. You know where it is now? It's about 39 or 40,000 points. So when they have these big days, these good days where the greatest gains ever, they're still down by 5 or 6,000 points from where they were just in early February. The fuck? That's not a win. That's a loss. And that's all Donald Trump does is fucking lose. The fact of the matter is when Donald Trump ran for president, 49% of the people in this country voted for him. And for the life of me, I don't know how that was possible. I don't know how they accomplished that. I was predicting incorrectly. I said that Kamala Harris would win because all logic and common sense told me she would win. Donald Trump was the worst presidential candidate in history. He'd been convicted 34 times. He'd been adjudicated for sexual assault. Everything that could go possibly wrong for Donald Trump did. So it didn't make sense that Donald Trump could win. Well, I quickly found out that common sense and logic plays no role when we're dealing with Donald Trump and the people that vote for Donald Trump. But now even those people are starting to see the light. It's kind of appalling that we have to go through this whole thing and get our asses kicked before some people wake up. And some of them are waking up because the polling right now is not going well for Donald Trump. In terms of the economy, 63% of this country disapprove of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's overall approval rating is at 39%. 39%, the lowest he's been, lower than anything in the first term. In fact, that number is so low, it's so low that it's lower than any other president in their first 100 days in 70 to 80 years. 70 to 80 years. Think of all the worst presidents you can possibly think of, and guess what? Donald motherfucking Trump is worse. Now, these polls, people would probably say, well, Donald Trump doesn't care about it. He will just lie about it. And that's probably true. But make no mistake, he's getting under Donald Trump's skin. He's getting a little skittish about it. See, Donald Trump is one of these people that love adulation, thinks he's the most popular, most famous, everybody loves him. But he's quickly finding out that that's not true. He can't even lie to himself at this point with these kind of polls. If you were to talk to Donald Trump, he would suggest that everything's going great and he's doing a super job. That's what he would say. But the fact of the matter is 60 to 70% of the people in this country don't think that's true. And that's quite a departure since you know that 49% of the people voted for him to be president. Donald Trump spent most of the time leading up to the election saying, I'm going to lower prices, I'm going to lower inflation. First day, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But just the opposite has happened. And people are going, what the fuck? What the fuck? I will say this to the folks out there in the audience. I appreciate you coming in. Feel free to ask questions, make comments, do whatever you can. I got one comment here, and I know there's a lot of you out there that probably have some questions or comments, so feel free to do it. I don't even know that YouTube is operating properly because sometimes it does that. It gets jammed up, and I don't know why. It makes it harder to do a live when that kind of thing happens. But anyway, so feel free to ask questions, make comments, and I appreciate you doing that. Well, Donald Trump got so butthurt about these polling. Make no mistake, this is getting to Donald Trump. This is getting under his skin. There's no question about it. And he went to Truth Social and he posted something like this. He said that we don't have free press anymore. We have a lot of fake news. Everybody's after Donald Trump. All the pollsters are cheaters. They're cheating. Now they're cheating. The one guy who cheats more than anybody else is accusing polls of cheating. You see how childish this is? Donald Trump wins, it's the best ever. Everything's running perfect. He loses, and somebody must be cheating because little Donnie motherfucking Trump could not lose. Well, the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is a fucking loser. He's been a loser all of his life. He's failed at virtually everything he's done. And it's frustrating to know that a 78-year-old man who's failed his entire life still somehow imagines that he is the ultimate winner. He's a superior being to all of us. That's what he thinks. He thinks he's superior to all of us. All these people that follow Donald Trump think he's fighting for them. He's not fighting for them. He's never fought for anybody but himself in his whole fucking life. He didn't participate in raising his kids. He's divorced 3 women, cheated on 3 women. He does not care about anybody else. And that's what's always been the toughest part. Those of us that have half a brain, average or above average intelligence, knew this from the beginning. We've been talking about this for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. But for some reason, the people that supported Donald Trump never got it, never clicked in their heads. But guess what? It's starting to click now, and the polls are starting to show that. The reason they know this is because they're losing jobs, the economy is going to shit, their 401ks are dropping like a rock. The farming community is losing all kinds of money, and it's going to get worse. The stock market is tanking. Donald Trump's polling numbers are tanking. Everything about Donald Trump at this point is bad, very bad. And he wants to try to gaslight you or hoodwink you into believing that all is well. Well, all is not well. And it's about time. You know, I really believed after he had lost in 2020 that Republicans would get rid of him and kick him to the curb and be done with him because he was nothing but a toxic piece of shit. But of course, that's not what happened. The Republicans brought him back into the fold, and he's been nothing but a terror ever since. So Donald Trump begged for a second chance. He wanted a second chance. He told us all the great things he could do. We knew better. You knew better. Dumb fucks did not know better. Now they've come to that point where they fucked around and they find out. They find out that Donald Trump is a flat out liar. That's the funny thing about these people. When you go to farmers, for example, and they say, did you expect this to happen when you voted for Donald Trump? And they all say the same thing. They say, no, I never imagined it would be this bad. Really? You never imagined it would be this bad. Do you remember a short time ago when Donald Trump was president before? Do you remember that? Donald Trump pretty much bankrupted the entire farming community with his tariffs against China. He ended up bailing you out to the tune of 30, 40, 50 billion dollars. But you don't remember that. Sure, it was nice to get bailed out, but is that really how you want to do business? Getting bailed out with welfare or socialism? Because let's be honest, that's what that is, socialism. When the government bailed the farmers out and when they give them subsidies, that is the very essence of socialism. The one thing that Trump-fucks are terrified of. Apparently, it's not socialism when they get it. It's when everybody else gets it. And see, that's the thing. People say to me, well, you should welcome in the Trumplafucks when they come in. You know, they realize the error of their ways, and we should welcome them in. And I have trouble doing that because these people had every opportunity that we have to see the light, to see what was really true. But they chose not to up until the time it kicked them in the ass. And then all of a sudden the light goes off and goes, oh my God, I voted incorrectly. Now, people say we should have empathy for these people that are struggling, but you voted for what you voted for, and you get what you get, and we're adults now, so you have to be accountable for your choices. We all have opportunities for making choices, and sometimes we get our ass kicked, and sometimes we win. Well, farmers and all the other Trumplafucks, you lost. And we tried to tell you over and over again, but you refused to listen. So, I don't feel any sympathy for these people. But in addition to that, I feel a certain amount of disdain for them. I really do. Because over and above them kicking themselves in the ass, the problem I have most of all with these people is that they were okay with other people getting burnt down, just as long as it wasn't them. They were fine with other people getting hurt, other people losing their property, going bust, whatever. They were fine with that up until the time it affected them. So my point is you made a wrong choice. You're paying the price now. I don't feel sympathy because you're an adult. You made a choice, but you made the wrong one. The reason I don't like you and would not bring you into the fold, not embrace you and be happy that you realize that you fucked up, because in the process of doing all this, you hurt a bunch of people that were trying to do the right things. They didn't vote for Donald Trump, but yet they have to suffer the things that you voted for. So as much as you're a victim here, you're also a motherfucking villain. That's what you are. Well, I tell you, we've got to do something with YouTube because I've got one comment and nothing else. And I know there's other people commenting out there. We have 101 people in the room here, but yet I can't get the comments. I'm not sure what's going on. So if you're asking questions, I apologize. I'm just not seeing anything. Well, hopefully things will start to pick up here and we will start seeing the comments. But I remember now, that's why I haven't done a YouTube live for a while because it didn't always work. There was always some kind of glitch. I always enjoyed YouTube because the people out here are wonderful, but I need YouTube to actually give me a situation where I can actually interact with people watching. That's the one thing I've always said about this is that it's one thing for me to stand here and talk and spew my bullshit. That's one thing. But it's more important that other people get a chance to talk. They get a chance to make comments, and because the only way we can get anywhere is if a lot of people are talking, and we're finally starting to see that now. So that's the good news. We are seeing people standing up. We're seeing big protests. We're seeing even Democratic politicians standing up. Now, I wanted to bring something else up too that. Donald Trump did an interview with a reporter from the Atlantic publication. Now, he'd been avoiding the Atlantic publication, but he inadvertently butt dialed the Atlantic reporter, and about 5:30 in the morning, I think it was, and he ended up doing an interview. He butt dialed. Yeah, great. Donald Trump's not the sharpest guy in the world, and Donald Trump got himself in the corner. He couldn't admit he was wrong, and so he started talking to this reporter. And he said something interesting. They were trying to compare what happened in the first term to what's going on now. And Donald Trump said that, well, in the first term, I had two jobs. I had to run the country and survive. And the reason he had to survive is because he said that he was surrounded by criminals. Fucking criminals. That's what he said. He said this term is much different. It's much better. It's not much better. It's much worse, and he knows it. But he's trying to convince you that what you see and hear and know isn't true. What he tells you is true. He said, now I have two jobs too. I have to run this country and run the world. Run the world. Well, you talk about delusions of fucking grandeur. That is Donald Trump in spades. Donald Trump doesn't run shit. He doesn't even run this country. He runs a section of the government. He does not run this country. We have mayors and governors and state senators and state reps and U.S. Senate, and he doesn't run anything other than a small segment of the government. He's the figurehead, if you will. And to suggest that he might be running other countries, running the world, I think China might have something to say about that. I think Russia may have something to say about that. Donald Trump is in a bad position right now, and I hope he understands it, because if he is, he's not getting much sleep. If Donald Trump truly ran the world, this would not be a problem. This wouldn't be an issue at all. But his tariffs have got him in deep, deep fucking trouble. Excuse me. Got him in deep trouble. He put the tariffs out, he pulls them back, he puts them on. He doesn't even know what the fuck is going on. He claims that he's going to do negotiations with some 120 countries or something. Now, keep in mind, when he did the trade negotiations with Canada and Mexico, you know, the trade pact that he has since violated and is ignoring, even though it was his team that put it together. That took 2 years. Now he's got 100 plus countries that he's got to negotiate with. And while that's happening, the stock market is taking, prices are going up, inflation is going up, but that's not even the bad part. That's not even the fucking bad part. It's going to be worse, and it's going to be worse pretty soon. You see, Donald Trump put the tariffs on China. He says, well, the ball is in your court, China. I'm waiting for your call. Guess what? Motherfuckers did not call. They did not call, and they're not going to call. They're standing strong. They said, we will fight this to the end. They don't want to negotiate with Donald Trump, and the reason they don't want to negotiate with Donald Trump, or nobody wants to negotiate with Donald Trump, because it's a fool's errand. Donald Trump changes his mind every other day. You can cut a deal with Donald Trump today, and it's something different tomorrow. If he gets a burr up his ass or he gets angry about something, he will change it. Tariffs are on. Oh, it's tanking the stock market. So now they're off. But then somebody points out that he tanked the stock market. He goes, okay, they're back on. This is what he does. And nobody believes that they can actually negotiate with him because he cannot be trusted. He just cannot be trusted. So China is doing what they're doing. And as I've said, the high prices and the high inflation is only a minor part of the problems that Donald Trump has and this country has. Because you see, as of the first week of May, all shipments from China have stopped. We have shipyards that are like ghost towns now. Normally, we've got ships and containers coming every day. And that's what's used to stock the shelves in our retail outlets and car parts and all that sort of stuff. Well, China's not sending those things anymore. In fact, China gave Donald Trump the middle finger at one point in the last few days, where they sent 200,000 containers to the United States, but they were fucking empty. They were empty. Now, if that isn't a message, I don't know what is. But they're just stopping them altogether. There are ships stopped in and around Shanghai, and they're not moving from there, and they're not coming to the U.S. Now, the thing with China, they went through this thing one time before in the first term with Donald Trump. So they've made some alliances, some other trade partners where they can ship some of their products to as opposed to the United States. So while it'll be hard for China, it'll be difficult for China. Um, it's not going to be as bad for them as it is for us. So you see what I mean when Target and Walmart and Amazon and all these places, when you need to buy something, the price of that thing and whether it rises or not isn't the issue. There'll be some things we just can't get. You know what comes out of China a lot? Toys. Toys comes out of China. And I know we're a ways from Christmas, but Christmas will be coming. What's going to happen when you can't buy toys for your kids and grandkids for their birthdays or for Christmas? There's going to be a lot of pissed off cowboys in this country. They are not going to be happy about this. They're going to be angry about it. And Donald Trump's stock is going to drop even lower than it is. And it's hard to imagine that it could be any lower than it currently is. So this is what's happening now. Now, we're going to start feeling those effects coming up in the next 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. But when it hits, it's going to be devastating. People are suggesting that it's going to be worse than what we saw in COVID. Now, you remember what happened with COVID? That was devastation. Those were bad times in this country. And guess what? Donald Trump was responsible for that too. I know a lot of people will say it was just COVID. It came out of China. It wasn't Donald Trump's fault. Yes, it was Donald Trump's fault. Donald Trump, as president of the United States, had an obligation to do something when the pandemic hits. And there are many things that can be done. Obama had set up a council to deal with it. They set up a plan to deal with it. And Donald Trump threw all those things out, fired all those people, and did literally nothing when the pandemic started. Did nothing. And the reason he did nothing was because he thought it would hurt him in the election. Well, funny, Donald Trump always fucks things up. It did hurt him in the election because he did nothing. More than 1 million people died in this country, and it was because of Donald Trump. The economy tanked because of COVID, and COVID was because of Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying we wouldn't have gotten COVID. We would have gotten COVID, but it wouldn't have been nearly as bad as it was if Donald Trump had done something, done anything, but he refused because he thought it was hurt his election. He was more than happy to let 1 million people die so he could save his election. That's essentially what happened. That's and he's doing that with everything, like with the tariffs now. Everybody in the right mind sees that the tariffs are going to be a problem. They see that China is just going to absolutely hammer us. But they're either too afraid to tell Donald Trump or Donald Trump is just not willing to listen. Because again, Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to say, oops, I made a mistake. Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to say, I'm sorry, we'll try something different. That's not in his vocabulary. That's not an ability he possesses. So we're just going to have to ride this out. And part of me is happy about this. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds ridiculous. But it seems like the crash, the ultimate catastrophic crash, is inevitable. If it's going to happen, I would rather have it happen sooner or later. Because apparently there are many Republican politicians and Trump-la-fuck voters that don't understand the peril we are in because of their Lord and Savior until they get their ass bit. Well, they're starting to get bit now, and some of them are stepping aside, but we need a mass exodus from Donald Trump's support. Now, there'll always be some people that will stand with Donald Trump no matter what because they're just stupid. You know, the one positive thing about not seeing the comments here, and again, I will say, if you're asking questions or making comments, I'm just saying it's not showing up here. I don't think that I'm doing anything wrong. I'm doing nothing different than I've ever done. I wanted to do a live on TikTok. I want to interact with folks, but for whatever reason, I can't see the questions and comments. And I know with 151 people in this room, there are questions and comments. So I apologize for that. And I'm doing the one thing that I hate doing more than anything else, me standing up here and fucking pontificating. I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, but I think it's very important that other people have some input. Other people have perspectives. Other people have knowledge that I don't, and we need to hear that. Unfortunately, in this situation, because of what's going on with YouTube here, I can't give you that. But I started this thing 30 minutes ago. I'm going to take it another 30 minutes, and I'm going to do it regardless of what else is going on. So I'll do my best to stay coherent and stay on point. But I'm 65 fucking years old. What can you expect out of an old guy sitting in his living room? But I have to remember to talk straight for 60 minutes is not a big deal when you think about Cory Booker doing 25 hours. That was fucking crazy. I can't even imagine him being able to do that. But I think that was a very important moment in our current timeline. There were a lot of creators out there that said, oh, it was just performative. It was no big deal. It didn't do anything. But I disagree. I disagree mightily because what he did was inspirational to a lot of people. And it's kind of like what I've said before, when Donald Trump won on November 5th, we expected the Democrats to come out fighting. In fact, there are a lot of people that predicted, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And I said, well, they've never shown any fight like that before, so I doubt that would happen. And of course, that's how it played out. We had no idea that the Democrats would turn tail and run, but that's exactly what they did. Now, I've heard some people talk about this, and they suggest they did that because they were so taken aback. They were so surprised that they lost. And I get that. I think we were all surprised. We were all upset by the loss. We didn't expect it. It made no logical sense or common sense for that to happen. But even still, we've got a country we're running here. We've got a democracy we're trying to preserve. And the Democrats, after losing that election, they're responsible for doing something. And that's what I always said. Not everything you do has to accomplish some goal. Just do something. Do anything. And as much as people maybe want to talk badly about Cory Booker for his performance, I say at least he did something. And in the process, he kind of inspired some people. And we're seeing it take effect. We're seeing these national protests where millions of people are coming out. That's good news. I mean, we can't get everybody to go vote, but we've got people hitting the streets because they're feeling the pain now and they want to speak up. Then we get somebody like Senator Van Hollins to go to El Salvador to try and talk to Kilmar Abrega Garcia. That was doing something. Now, did he get Garcia back into the United States? No, but he did something. And then some other reps went down there. And more reps will go down there. See, that's the thing. That's the thing that people don't understand. Democrats want to say, well, we can do this and we can do that and we'll help you. But they don't always show it when they get power. Donald Trump spent 4 years saying, I'm going to lower prices. Joe Biden's prices are too high. I'm going to lower inflation. I'm going to not have any wars. I'm going to do this. But not once did he ever say how he was going to do this. These people bought into just what Donald Trump was saying at face value. They just completely bought into it. You didn't have to tell them how. And maybe that's the point. Maybe it's about rhetoric. Maybe it's not about facts or examples. Maybe giving the examples is too in-depth for a lot of people, and apparently it is. You see, the country's changed a little bit. There was a time when I was younger, 60s, 70s, when politics was a different deal. There was a certain decorum with politics. Democrats did their thing, Republicans did their thing. There was still some negotiation, people crossing the aisle. There was a lot of that going on back in the day, and that's how government is supposed to work. But as time has gone on, we've become a lazier constituency. We don't want to hear the boring shit. We want to hear the scandalous shit. We want to hear the rhetoric. We want to hear the noise. People who follow Donald Trump are a certain kind of people. One of two kinds of people. They're wealthy and they think they're going to get a tax break, or they're poor and they feel like the government has oppressed them for decades. And the moment somebody like Donald Trump steps up and says, hey, I hate the government too, I'm going to fight for you, get behind me. That's exactly what they do. They get behind him because they've never seen anybody like Donald Trump who was willing to fight for the poor people. They didn't give a fuck if he was lying. They were just happy somebody said he was going to fight for them. Little did they know he was a liar. Now, it's pretty clear Donald Trump is a pathological fucking liar. He's always been a pathological liar. And if you're dumb enough to believe a pathological liar, well, you're going to get what you deserve. And many of those people are getting what they deserve. Donald Trump also spent a lot of time saying, we're going to have the rest of the world respect us again. The rest of the world doesn't respect Joe Biden. They're going to respect me. Now, the only way Donald Trump knows how to get respect is to be a bully. Go and threaten people, threaten Canada, threaten Mexico, threaten China, threaten the EU, threaten Zelensky. But guess what? That doesn't earn somebody respect. And you can see the perfect illustration of that during the Pope's funeral. Pope Francis passed away, unfortunately, and there was a funeral at the Vatican. Now, it was interesting when Donald Trump went there. There was kind of a dress code where everybody wore black, and of course, Donald Trump wore fucking blue. And the reason he wore blue is because he wanted to be a rebel, and he wanted to stand out, and he wanted all the attention. But there was an interesting moment in that funeral when President Zelensky of Ukraine walked in. Everybody clapped and cheered for President Zelensky, as they should. He's a brave man fighting a brave fight and struggling with his war against Russia. But when Donald Trump walked in there, guess what happened? You could hear a fucking pin drop. Not one person clapped for him. He walked in looking like he was oblivious to anything. But nobody was happy to see him there. We saw a situation where President Trump was with Zelensky, and President Macron from France comes over, shakes hand with Zelensky. Donald Trump extends his hand, hoping that Macron will shake his hand, and it was kind of awkward there for a moment. But Macron didn't shake his hand. Maybe he did later, off camera, but nobody wants to feel like they're buddies with Donald Trump. Everybody who stands with Donald Trump or pays him respect, they get their ass kicked. Bill Maher went and had dinner with him. That was a mistake. The people from Morning Joe went to see him, Mika and Joe. That wasn't a good move. They lost half their audience because of that. So the idea that Donald Trump suggests that people respect him is just not true. He wants people to fear him, and that's what he equates respect with. But clearly, people around the world don't even fear him anymore. They know he's a buffoon. They know he's an idiot. And they know he's going to do what he's going to do, so there's no reason to cave into him. There are Republicans every day in Congress and in the Republican Party that bend the knee to Donald Trump every fucking day. Every fucking day they do this. But the people around the world, the Chinas, the Frances, all these people, Canada, they're basically saying, Donnie, you're a fucking joke and we're tired of your shit. So the idea that Donald Trump thinks the rest of the world respects us because he's now the president, well, that's absolutely fucking ridiculous. That's not at all what is happening. Now, Donald Trump is polling very low. His approval rating is 39%. Lowest in 70 years, as I said. But he's got one thing going for him. He's a little higher than Elon Musk. Elon Musk is below Donald Trump in terms of his approval rating. That whole Elon Musk thing has just been a fiasco. It's like everything Donald Trump does, it's a failure. Elon Musk went out there with his pimple-faced techno tweak interns trying to cut and slash all kinds of waste. Now, I will tell you this, in federal government, in state government, in local government, there is a shitload of waste. And that waste should be peeled off. But you don't do it in a couple of days with a fucking flamethrower. That's going to go badly. That's going to go poorly. And that's exactly what happened. Elon Musk started talking and he was all proud and tough and thought he was going to do this and that and the other thing. He said he was going to cut $2 trillion in waste. Well, he quickly realized that that wasn't going to happen, so he dropped it down to $1 trillion in waste is what he was going to cut. And then that didn't work. He got the bad press. Tesla started to tank. He doesn't know what to do. He's confused because, like Donald Trump, he's a malignant narcissist. He thinks everybody likes him. He thinks everybody should like him, but it's quite the opposite. Everybody hates that motherfucker. Now he doesn't know what to do. Turns out he's now claiming that they cut 150 billion in waste. The only thing is there is no line items for 100 billion of that. You can't tell us what was cut, how it was cut, what it would do. And after what he's done in this government, in this country, the $150 billion that he saved, he's at least doubled that in cost to us because of the damage he's done to this country. He's literally doubled it, if not more. So he's been an absolute failure. Elon Musk is a lot like Donald Trump. He needs the adulation. He needs to be the hero. He needs to be thought of the smartest, the best, and the richest. Donald Trump tried to sell some Tesla cars in front of the White House. Once again, that failed. Tesla continues to drop. And I feel bad for those people who bought Teslas with good intentions to help ecology and do the right thing. They had no way of knowing that Elon Musk would absolutely destroy his brand and make it laughable for those people who are driving Teslas. And of course, you have the Tesla Cybertrucks, or douche machines, as I call them. They're all over the place. And I know anybody who sees these things are just laughing at these people. These motherfucking people bought $100,000 vehicles thinking they're cool. It's all about their image. And now people just think they're dumb fucks. That's not necessarily fair, but that's the way the fucking cookie crumbles in this world. That's what happens. So everything that Donald Trump has done since coming into office has failed. Literally has failed. There's nothing that's worked. And then, of course, we have the Defense Department. Now, here's an interesting thing about the Defense Department. Remember, the guy running the Defense Department has caused two of the biggest security breaches in American history, and he runs the Defense Department. This guy has a little trouble with drinking. This guy has a little trouble with treating women properly. He's a liar. He's a cheater, and he was a part-time guy at Fox News. You couldn't get the full-time guy. You had to get the part-time guy. So anyway, what they've done, what Donald Trump is doing, and he's trying to, once again, supersede Congress and supersede the laws of this country. He's taking over stretches of land, the 170-mile stretch of land, and it's a very thin stretch of land, and he's putting military people there down near the border. And the deal is, if somebody, a stray immigrant, comes across the border and ends up on that property, then the military can arrest him, which is quite a departure. The military has never been able to do any kind of policing inside the country. They're for fighting wars in other countries. And that's a very thin red line to cross, but Donald Trump is edging ever closer to it. And that's what Donald Trump does. He pushes the envelope, and then he tries to go over it. He tries to ease his way into it. It's like we're all that frog boiling in a pan. Slow but sure, it gets hotter and hotter, and then all of a sudden we've been had. Donald Trump's done this over and over since we first met him as a political animal back in 2016. And this country has fallen for it every motherfucking time. Every motherfucking time they've fallen for it. So they have these military people set to get immigrants, supposedly. It's a red flag for people who will say, well, see, he's just setting it up. He's setting the stage or setting the groundwork to initiate martial law. Now, I keep hearing people say this over and over again, and I'm not really concerned about him initiating martial law. It's something you hear a lot about from creators on TikTok and YouTube and all of this. But you have to understand these people are looking for something very specific. They're looking for views and they're looking for followers. And the way they do that is the same way Donald Trump and the Republicans do it, by creating some fear. People get scared, they got to listen more. But for him to initiate martial law is going to be quite an undertaking. First of all, not all of the military will go along with that. They swore an oath to the Constitution to protect the Constitution and not Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying there won't be some military that side with Donald Trump. Some of them are going down to the border with this thing that Donald Trump is doing, but they're not really breaking a law as yet, so they're not really being tested. But over and above that, remember on April 5th, we had 5 million people on the streets. On April 19th, we had even more people on the streets protesting. There's just too many people out here to pull off something like that. I know a lot of people want to be afraid about it. I know a lot of people are worried about it. I don't think martial law is the biggest problem. And more importantly is what I said before about Donald Trump. Donald Trump fucks everything up. I mean, keep in mind, he tried to have an insurrection on January 21st or January 6th, 2021. He tried to have an insurrection. Now, keep in mind, he was the president at that time. He had control in Congress, control in the DOJ, and he still fucking failed. He still failed. So the idea that he might try something similar would be probably just another fuck up like everything else he's ever done. I'm not saying we shouldn't be wary of it. I'm not saying we shouldn't protect ourselves from it. But I don't want to see people out there getting terrified because of what's going on and what might happen. The one thing about Donald Trump, he fucks up so much that he ends up cleaning up his messes and he doesn't get much accomplished. You remember the first term, he never got much accomplished. He said he was going to get us an infrastructure bill, never did. He said that he was going to get us a new health plan that was bigger and better than anything we've ever seen. He never got a plan. He had a concept for a plan, but he never got the plan. Donald Trump said he would lower prices and inflation. He gets in, he's been in for more than 3 months, and he hasn't even made an effort to do anything along those lines. He hasn't done anything. He's too busy enriching himself, too busy promoting himself to actually do any kind of meaningful work. Now, there is one thing. We've got the big, beautiful budget bill that's in the House of Representatives. And I know Mike Johnson is anxious to get that going, get that baby passed. I will tell you this, the likelihood of that bill getting passed is about zero. Even if they could pull it off in the House, they'll never pull it off in the Senate. It will not happen. And it's largely due to the fact that it would involve a big cut, if not a full cut, of Medicaid. Now, see, the Republicans like to do things under the radar. They will tell us, well, nowhere in the bill does it say we'll cut Medicaid. Well, no, it doesn't. But it does talk about making cuts on certain departments. And in the department where Medicaid is, and if you want to cut out 880 billion, the only way you do it is cutting Medicaid completely. So you may not have said it, but everybody knows what you meant and everybody knows what you intend to do. See, that's the problem for the Republicans. Everybody knows now. When it's under the radar, these Republicans can say, well, it never said that. That's why I voted for it. There's reasonable deniability for somebody who votes for it. That's not there anymore. And that's why there are members of the House of Representatives that are suggesting that, yeah, I'm not so sure I'm going to sign on that. Because I will tell you this, if you cut Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security, or just one of them, there is going to be outrage. There is going to be a revolution. This is real benefits for real people that need those benefits. And if you take them away, there is going to be hell to pay. Anybody who signs on to cut Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security, they aren't going to get reelected. And they know this. They should have known this all along. It shouldn't have gotten this far. But they are bending the knee to Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is telling these people, oh, if you don't vote for it, you're going to get what for. That's what Donald Trump is saying. And it's worked before. It's worked before with Donald Trump. He threatened these people, and then all of a sudden, something that didn't look like it was going to pass did pass. This is a different situation. This is either kill or be killed. And they're going to be hard pressed to get this bill passed. I will say this, the Democrats are doing a good job of publicizing what this is about. I don't know if you saw that Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker started a sit-in on the steps of the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol. Sat there for like 12 hours, and as time went on, more Democrats showed up, more of the public showed up, and they had quite a crowd sitting on the steps. You might say, what will that do? Well, that brings awareness to what's going on, which is exactly the opposite of what Republicans want. They want to slip this fucking bill under the wire and nobody know any better. Well, that's not happening anymore. They're making a goal of July 4th to pass this bill. Well, good luck, motherfuckers, because things are only going to get worse. And the more it gets worse for Donald Trump, the less chance it has to pass. Because you see, these people are cowards, and they don't want to stand up to Donald Trump. They don't want to be the first one to stand up to Donald Trump. But once that happens, and there are a few now pushing back a little bit, but once that happens, the dam is going to break. It's going to go exactly the opposite as Donald Trump would want. See, the Republicans in Congress right now in kind of a tough spot. They want to push back on Donald Trump for deporting 2-year-old kids, 4-year-old kids, kids with cancer. They want to push back against Donald Trump for crashing the economy, for putting us in a terrible situation that we're in now. But they can't really do that because they got to stay on his good side while this bill is in the process. This bill's in the process, and they can't afford to piss off Donald Trump. But once the bill doesn't pass, and we realize the true effects of Donald Trump's tariffs. See, like I said before, we haven't realized or felt the true effects of the tariffs as yet. That has not happened yet. Prices might have raised a little bit. Inflation may have raised a little bit. We've got other issues. But like I was talking about before in the beginning of the program, when it's really going to hit is in a couple of weeks. when those shipments don't come and there is nothing on the shelves, people are going to be angry, of course. But you know who's going to be just as angry, if not more so? It's going to be those big time, big money oligarchs that supported and voted for Donald Trump. Places like Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Amazon, all these people that supported Donald Trump never in their wildest dreams believed that Donald Trump would do exactly what he said he would do. But now it's hitting them in the face. And here's the deal. Donald Trump likes to play this game. The tariffs are on, the tariffs are off. Even if Donald Trump said, I'm not going to do the tariffs, I was wrong, they're all off, they're all done. That's probably not going to change China's mind. They realize that they have to make a point. They have to make him an example, if you will. And they're going to have to follow through with not shipping the shipments. And even if they did decide, okay, we'll ship them now, we're still 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 weeks away from what's already out there in the bays to get here. So there's going to be a period of time of a couple of months at the bare minimum if Donald Trump did something fucking today, but he's not going to do that. And you can tell that the Republicans are sitting there with their puckered sphincters, not knowing what to do, because they're smart enough to see what's going to happen. They're getting the phone calls. They're getting the intelligence about how this shipping issue is going to be a big problem. They know it's going to be a problem, but they're too much of a, they're cowards. They're not willing to push back against Donald Trump, even if it means absolute disaster in this country. And this is the problem. We've elected a bunch of cowards, both on the Republican and Democratic side. Now we're seeing a handful of Democrats doing some things, and that's good to see. But we need more people to do that. And we need people like us to continue to talk and push back. We need to keep the noise loud, the rhetoric constant, and keep pushing it on these people. Because that's what the Republicans did for the last 4 years. Guess what? They fucking won. They fucking won. So let's take a note from their book of strategy and do the same thing in return. Apparently, that's what it takes to get people to listen. Talk loud, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of bullshit. That's apparently what causes these people to vote. Now, we have to make some changes in the Democratic Party, and I've said this a long time. And I feel comfortable in saying it. We got to get rid of the old white people. And I feel comfortable because I'm an old white guy. I think we've had our time, and I think we've done what we've done. Maybe in the past there's been some good things done, but there's been a lot of bad done. In 2028, we are going to have the majority of the voters being millennials and Gen Z. They should be allowed to determine their destiny. I shouldn't decide what's going to happen after I'm long dead. I don't want my kids and my grandkids to have to suffer through whatever miscalculation old white people thought of. They should be able to determine their future. And they will be able to determine their future. But we need the millennials and the Gen Zs to take note. And I know a lot of them are, but we need to make them understand this is serious. In 2028, when it comes to the presidential vote, you have the opportunity to control this situation. So you need to grab the wheel, take control, and do what is best for you. I've said this before, I'm an old man. My life probably isn't going to change much regardless of what happens because my life is pretty well set and I have a finite time period now. I'm not going to be here 40 years from now. So given that, we shouldn't be listening to people like me. We should be encouraging young people to step up and take control. Of course, we tried to do that, or Congress tried to do that. AOC wanted to be the chairman or chairperson of the Oversight Committee. But instead, Nancy Pelosi said, nah, you're too young. I don't like AOC for whatever reason. She's too far left. And she instead put somebody by the name of Representative Jerry Conley in the oversight position. Now, I will say Jerry Conley is a fine representative, but Jerry Conley has some health issues. Prior to being made the chair of the Oversight Committee, he had some issues with cancer. Now, that shouldn't preclude him from being the chairman of the Oversight Committee, but why not go to a youth movement, especially with what we know is going to happen? So she puts Jerry Conley in the chairmanship. Okay, it's not who we wanted, but we'll deal with it. Well, guess what? 3 months in, Jerry Conley has to step back from the Oversight Committee because unfortunately cancer came back. He's not going to be healthy enough to continue. So now what are they going to do? Are they going to find another old white guy to stick in there? Or are they going to put somebody younger there? Now, it doesn't even have to be AOC. It could be Eric Swalwell. It could be Jamie Raskin. It could be anybody. But as long as the old people, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, control Congress, we've got a problem because they're from a different era, a different generation. They don't understand what's going on now. They're wise and old politicians, but times have changed. We've gone from decorum and normal politics as usual to a veritable street fight. So we need street fighters in there, people that will stand up and push back. Now, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and I say Hakeem Jeffries not because he's old, but he's got a lot of big money behind him. I've been highly disappointed in Hakeem Jeffries, honestly. He has great potential. He's a great speaker. He's a great politician, but he's obliged to the likes of Nancy Pelosi and big money. And that's not an improvement over what we currently have. Up until the time Hakeem Jeffries decides to step out and be on his own and do what's right as opposed to what the wealthy people tell him to do, I can't support him. Now, I don't know if him being part of the sit-in with Cory Booker was part of his departure from the establishment. I hope it is, but I don't know that it is. So it's going to be interesting to see who they put in the position of the Oversight Committee now that Jerry Conley has stepped aside. We could have saved a lot of trouble, saved a lot of time, saved a lot of confusion, and just put AOC in there when it was first available. But the establishment, the old people, decided, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to fucking do that. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of things going on here now. There's a lot of things to talk about it. Tomorrow on the Rational Boomer podcast, I will have Jace. He is our friend from Texas. A lot of fucked up shit going on in Texas, and Jace is a former Republican who is an interesting guy to talk to. We've got some more guests coming up. We'll do a live on TikTok. I'll try to do a live here on YouTube again, and hopefully we can come up with some way where I can get the comments and questions. And I appreciate you folks for sticking with me in spite of the fact that I can't answer your questions or comments. I don't know what the deal is. And I'm sorry I just sat here and pontificated for an hour, but once I got started, if there were no questions and comments, that's all that was left to do. I did the best I could, but remember, I'm just an old white motherfucker sitting in my living room doing the best I can. And that's all we all can do, really, is the best we can and try to fix what we're dealing with currently. And I want you to understand this, too, that once we get to a point where we're going to fix things, because remember, there is going to be an end to Donald Trump and there's going to be an end to MAGA and all that stuff. We will come out the other side and things will get better when that happens. However, it's going to be a long road to hoe to get pulled out of this bullshit. Donald Trump has done a lot of damage to this country. MAGA has done a lot of damage to this country. It's going to take a lot of work to fix this, but we can't whine and cry about it. We got to get to the point where we're in a position to be able to do it. And then we need to get to work. We need to get down to fucking business. We may not like it, but that's our lot in life. That's what we have to do. We got to keep doing what we're doing and do it some more and do it louder and doing it harder and keep it up until we win. It's a lot of work. It's tiring. It's chaotic. It's upsetting. It's disconcerting. People are fearful about what's happening, and justifiably so. There's a lot to be afraid of. But we can't win this by being afraid and cowering. We got to be brave and bold and um, kick it in the ass. Last thing I'll talk about real quickly is one of the things we said about the Democrats after they lost the November 5th election is that we have to get at least a group of people who might be likely prospects to be a presidential candidate. But who? That's always the big question. People would say Gavin Newsom, maybe not him so much anymore, maybe Tim Walz, maybe not. Who is going to be the leader of this Democratic Party going into the 2028 election? Now, the one thing people will say, what about Kamala Harris? And I would love that. I thought Kamala Harris would be an outstanding president. But I think we learned a lesson, a sad lesson, but a lesson nonetheless on November 5th, 2024. And that is that this country is more racist and more sexist than I ever imagined. And that is unfortunate. And we absolutely need to win in 2028. This country cannot afford to lose in 2028. So we have to take the best prospect to take us on to the next era of a Democratic era where we can start to get things straightened out. But the question is who? A lot of people have ideas. Now, this past weekend, there is a gentleman who is the governor of Illinois who gave a speech. And it really perked my ears up when he gave this speech because he came off exactly the way I think we need to come off in order to beat the Republicans over the next 3 years or so. And of course, I'm talking about J.B. Pritzker. He is a legitimate billionaire, but he's a good man. He's an honest man. He's done good work for Illinois, and he believes in working for the people. At least that's what he's saying. What I liked about J.B. Pritzker is he's not afraid. He's willing to be bold. He's willing to call people out. And in this speech this past weekend, that's exactly what he did. He called out Donald Trump. He called out Elon Musk. He called out the Republicans. And guess what? He even called out the fucking Democrats, the do-nothing Democrats. That's what he said. And that's what needs to be done. We need somebody who's strong and bold. And they are few and far between these days, even on the Democratic side. AOC maybe, a few others. But we need somebody who's strong. The other thing we have to consider, too, when it comes down to the election in 2028, who's more likely to win the presidency? A senator, a member of the House, or a governor? Well, more often than not, a governor will be elected president before a senator or a representative because they are basically the CEO of their state, and it's an easier transition for them to be the CEO of this country. I don't honestly know who will be the candidate for the presidency for the Democrats come 2028 or 2027, leading up to the election in 2028. But at this point, if I was to have to pick somebody out, and honestly, in my mind, this has changed a few times, but in my mind, based on what I heard this past weekend, J.B. Pritzker seems to be the guy. He's strong enough, he's powerful enough, he calls people out, he's willing to be bold, and he's not afraid of anybody. That's the one problem we have in our Congress and in politics in general. Too many motherfuckers are afraid. Now, if you run for office and you're going to represent me or you or everybody else, you can do a lot of things. The two things you shouldn't do, fill your pockets and be a pussy. You don't do that because you're of no use to us if you do either of those things. Somebody like J.B. Pritzker doesn't need our money because he's already got billions. Secondly, he seems to be an honest guy and he's willing to walk up and slap the taste out of somebody's mouth. That's who we need. Now, I'm not saying J.B. Pritzker is going to be the presidential candidate, but if I had to pick somebody today, that's who it would be. That would be the best choice. So whether it's J.B. Pritzker or somebody else, they have to have that kind of attitude, that kind of courage, and that willingness to be bold. All right. I am going to wrap up this live, the Rational Boomer podcast. For all of you that sat and listened, I appreciate it. I know it's not as exciting as if I had questions or comments. Believe me, it wasn't as exciting for me, but for whatever reason, that's not working. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.